Hey guys, Wolf of Dimensions here with the starting of Anime Corner, basically the anime equivalent of Kaiju Council. Now, I know not as many people will watch this. I don't care. As I said before, this is not a business. This is my hobby, and even though I treat it like a business and I treat it with the utmost respect and seriousness for you guys, it does not mean that's all I'm out for. So, moving on past my own little bleh. Today it's my first theory, and it's the to me it's the most important one, or one of the most important ones I'll ever do on this show, and that's a big thing to say for the first episode. But I wanted to start off strong, and this episode is about the importance of Kurisu to Okabe in the Steins Gate series. Now, spoilers for this entire episode, by the way. If you've watched, you know that he had to keep time leaping so he could save Mayuri because he couldn't get past the divergence barrier. And on the beta line, her life was set to die on a certain date depending how far forward he kept time jumping. Now, you see, he went crazy. He time jumped so many times, 50, maybe even hundreds of times. He just kept repeating history to watch her die to the point where went numb of it. And that's what the whole most of the show was about, was saving Mayuri, was changing time on the right path. And that was a big deal. That at the time that was important. And you even knew it was important because you knew that they were really good friends. But then eventually it gets to the point where he starts reversing him, where he realizes that first D-mail saved Kurisu. It saved Kurisu. It saved. It was the reason those whole 2 weeks with her happened. So you look at it like this, and I think the fans realize, just as he does in that moment, that going back to the original world line means he loses her. And this is where it gets interesting, because you see their relationship go up and down, left and right, and start to build as time goes. And it all boils to the point where he realizes that he couldn't even trade her, not even for Mayuri. Like, he could not live without her. And you know this is true, and he treats this differently. He treats every situation with Kurisu after he finds out what happens differently. With Kurisu, I keep butchering it. But with Kurisu, he can't change the past that much because he loves her. This is the person he fell in love with. And to him, without her, it'll be incomplete. To him, personally, life won't be the same with her. This is the interesting fact of he is willing to let Mayuri keep dying and dying just so he can save her, which is an important detail in her importance. Also, Kurisu makes a few statements. She says, you gotta do it. I've watched how, attached you are to her, and I've seen how many times you've done this. But the thing is that it's either jealousy or just sadness. She wanted to be that for someone, and she is. But she's so stubborn in that scene to get him to move forward with his life, to accept her death, that she doesn't see it. And here's how it goes. As soon as she dies, as soon as he returns back to the world line he belongs to, he is forever changed. He is not Hoin Kiyoma anymore. He is not the mad scientist. He takes on a more serious role. Kurisu also, she, besides the fact that they're in love, and besides the fact that she plays that key of a role, she played an important role to the lab. She was half of the success of the entire operations that happened. And you can't watch that show without her at that point, because without her, it's empty. And you can feel what he feels in that moment. You feel that emptiness of you've went on this adventure with that person, and they've become your friend along the way, and then they're just taken. And she tells all these ideas, these wonderful dreams, that there are many world lines, and that she could be alive in that one. And it's sad because what our realization is that those world lines turn into dreams. They turn into things that did happen but haven't happened no more. The residue of those world lines remain, but that's it. that's as far as we know. And with her death, her entire personality changes. With Mayuri's death, he got tired, he got worn out, and he changed, but not to the same extent, in my opinion. Also, Kurisu's life is important. In one world, she creates the time machine that causes CERN to take over, and all that, and it's just, and then it gets to the point where if she lives in a beta world line, she helps create the apocalypse. But if she dies in the normal world line, her death creates World War III. Her death centers on the fate of everyone. It's it's hard to swallow. And then you're Okabe in that position to where the person you let die, you shouldn't have let die, because then a history worse than the one you came from appears. And he realizes, how many times have I time leapt just for Mayuri? How many times have I went through this? And I believe in his mind, if he time leapt like that for her, he'd break completely. Because seeing her die is the one thing he refuses to do. And he accidentally killed her. And that death, that scene, provides the entire outlook, the entire viewpoint of Steins Gate Zero. So what that means is that her death styled the fashion of World War III, but also styled the entire breakdown of Okabe Rintaro. The entire character breakdown of Okabe Rintaro. Which means that instead of being the man in the lab coat that ran around doing mad science, that made all these friends and had so much hope on life, is now a man with PTSD and a black suit that spends most of his time in a dorm in college, who's not hoeing Kiyoma, who doesn't have that uplifting spirit. It's not him anymore. And I won't lie, I can be one of the first people to say that I preferred him and his serious tone to hoeing. But then you got to realize that's not who he is. He made that character to output his feelings on things and to be a part of him. Hoeing Kiyoma isn't its own person. That's who he is. That's him. No matter how far you look at it. It's just the side of him he wants to show. It's that happiness, that morality. And when he gets serious, he knows it upsets his friends. Okabe's life is styled by Kurisu. The entire world is styled by her. The entire Steins Gate storyline in the background is styled by her. And that's what that is. Makise Kurisu is the backbone of the Steins Gate series. It makes me think of The Witcher. In the Witcher games, Geralt is the main character, but in the end, by The Witcher 3, Cirilla or Ciri is the backbone of that story. It's these characters that you get so attached to that you can't live without. Just as the main character can't. It's those characters that you realize that if they're gone, you're empty. And in most plays and most tragedies, it's a cleansing. You realize these things can happen to you, these bad things, and you also realize that you feel better because you also realize you can relate to these people and feel upset for them, and you feel better afterwards eventually. But to me, with Makise's death, I couldn't. It's like Angel Beats. At the end of Angel Beats, and I know you're gonna call me a baby, but I couldn't recuperate from Angel Beats. The ending on that was so horrible, like so sad. I lost it for 3 days. Like, I was depressed. And then the same thing almost happened to me with this, except I didn't let it. I mean, I might as well have. Probably would have went on worse if I did. She's just that strong of a character, and they have that strong of a bond. So her importance to the Steins Gate series, all in all, is she is the backbone and the glue that keeps all the characters together and keeps the storyline on its major point. So when Steins Gate Zero becomes an anime, it will really depend a lot on her. Even though she's dead, it'll depend a lot on her actions and her memory. That's the funny thing. Even when she's gone, the story will be run by her. In the partially in a funny way, it's her story. And no amount of time will stop Okabe Ranchero. No amount of time will stop Hoin Kiyama from saving her. Because he's fought fate. And you know what? Once you fight fate for so long, eventually you don't let it win. And that's what he proved. And he was willing, for both of them, he was willing to get run down by a car. He was willing to die if both of them lived. And in the end, it was really Kurisu he couldn't live without. So, guys, thank you for watching. This was a very important episode to me, so I'm glad if you stuck all the way through it. Like, comment, subscribe if you want, guys. Thank you for this. This will be a fun series. Wolf of Dimensions, out.